right about now. Hey, everybody. This is your host, the Purple Smurf, and I'm here with Luke Stone and JB. We're going to be talking about Luke's new project. We're going to be drawing, and today's topic is favorite panel remix. Take a panel that inspired you, whether it's your childhood or just last week, and then do something. Do your own spin on it. And so I'm going to roll our opening credits, talk about it a little bit, and then we're going to draw and learn about Luke's project. If you like it, back it, and welcome to There Will Be Ink. Here's our opening credits, which I worked really hard on. I hope you all enjoy it. Here we go. Let's see if I can even rig the screen. Boom, 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 boom. I'm not hearing it. This is a finely organized broadcast, everybody. Let's try this. Oh, now I hear it. All right, let's see if all the people out there in TV land are enjoying this. Oh, yeah, that's looking okay. So, you are tuned to the Purple Smurf. We're going to have a little drawing competition. It's not really a competition. I mean, it could be. If it was a competition, I think I would pick the winner. And it's just about an idea, a prompt. This week's prompt is take a panel that lives in your imagination, figure out what made it special, and then try to do one with your own characters, with your own style, your own inspiration that somehow captures that same sort of magical element. Try to steal a trick from one of the masters and then do it in your own style. So I've got one queued up. I did my pencils earlier, and I'm going to be working it on the light box. I know our guest artists have got something already cooking up. If you're drawing along at home, post your stuff on Twitter in response to my channel. It's Purple Smurf 13. And if you're in the chat right now, just say hey and let us know you're out there. We know it's a busy time, late for some of you on the East Coast, but come on, what else do you got to do? A little word to the wise about our house rules. We're here to have creativity, conversation, meet indie creators, boost indie creators, but we're not here to trash anybody, tear anybody down, complain, get on the politics or anything. We all know the score. 2021 is a year to build. Get your book out in front of people, find your audience. There's no one stopping you. I mean, in some ways, the road is more open to us right now than it's ever been. Many of you, like me, probably been interested in comics since you were 11 years old. There's never been a time like now. There's never been a time when you can just assemble your own team, do the work. Small, high-quality, small batch printing is available at the push of a button. Twitter, YouTube, it's like nothing we've ever seen before. So this is the time. Stop complaining and put your product out in front of the people, all right? So this is it. There will be ink. I'm excited to introduce you to Luke Stone. We'll each talk about the panel we're doing, and then we'll learn a little bit about hybrids. Luke was telling me before we went on air that he did a few campaigns last year, has learned a lot. So if you're running a campaign this year, like I am, in 2 weeks, you might want to listen and learn something from his experiences. So I'll let this music play out, and then we'll talk about the panels that inspired us. My opening credits animation comes from a Japanese show called Gordion the Warrior. Just found out about it a couple weeks ago, and it rocks my world. I like how this guy beats up his enemies and then hands him some Band-Aids. He's like, sorry I beat you, but here's some Band-Aids. And then they thank him for it. It's hilarious. But it's a great show if you ever can catch it. It's really awesome. All right, I'm going to get my panel ready. My panel of inspiration. All right. Okay, and I am a highly trained broadcaster, so do not fear if it looks like I don't know what I'm doing. That's all part of the act. Okay, I'm going to take that screen off, and here we go. So, JB, what are you working on?
Okay, so I'm working on the Eastman and Laird Turtles #1.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be the panel where Leonardo introduces the team. And
cool.
All four turtles are in the panel, so
that's awesome.
Get all of them in.
Yeah, I've said before that was a huge inspiration on me. I'm old, 1986, I was 11 years old, and that was my best year for reading comics. 86 and 87, I read more comics, and it was a great year. And so I had all of those, the first run of Mirage Studios, and they were so great. The visual storytelling was insane. The violence and fight choreography was insane. That was the first time I ever saw. Well, it's funny because there were two that same year, but I can remember as a panel where Shredder takes his wrist claw thing and goes right across the tummy of one of the turtles,
Yeah.
and the blood shoots sideways and just hits the wall. And it was all in black and white. The turtles didn't have different colored headbands, you know what I mean?
Right.
So the blood was black.
Yeah,
And you just saw that black blood hanging from their swords.
right.
And then remember the one, I think it was issue 3 or 4, where they had the big battle with the Foot Clan and they won, except they got devastated.
Yeah.
And so the scene of them walking back and they're all cut up and bleeding, I mean, there was nothing like that. The only thing that was like that was another comic that I love is X-Men 205. There is a couple scenes in there where Wolverine takes his claws across a few people and you see that same black blood. I guess they were pushing the limits in 86. Back in 86. All right, so Luke, what are you working on? Why don't you show us?
I'm working on I think I've already got my screen shared up there for you.
Yeah, tell me if you can't see it. I see your face, but I don't see the other one. Let me see. Hold on. Here it comes. There it is. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So I've got this old panel in here. It's a Jack Kirby panel from I just had a Fantastic Tales or something like that. So it's Captain America. He's battling out. I'm a big fan of Kirby. So his ability to just you look at that great page, sequential arts. You don't need any words. It just really jumps off of there. So I really like this panel here where he's punching a bad guy, and so.
Yeah, Kirby's when he does that the sound effect that I always think of is thwok, THWOK.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it. That's the ultimate sound effect, right? No other sound effect is needed. When he does a thwok, and the guy doing the punch is moving towards the camera, and then the guy being hit is flying towards the camera.
Yeah,
those are so good. Those are so good.
Yeah,
they never get old. They never get old. Yeah. And I like when they would do those the speed lines of the action lines, like the starburst, a really tight starburst coming out from the center on any of those action panels.
Yeah, I really like that about that panel too. So I'm gonna do my own take on that. But
absolutely, in a modern way. That looks great.
Yeah, I've already keyed up a few lines that I like, but.
Nice. All right, I'll show you guys what I'm working on. And I'm, when I put this up, somebody in the Twitterverse was like, "Oh, you're going to do Sienkiewicz? Yeah, nice." As if like, why would you even try to touch Sienkiewicz? And of course, someone like me, I have nothing to lose. I'm a colorist second, I'm a writer first, and an artist just for fun. So I don't have to live up to anybody else's expectations. But Bill Sienkiewicz is probably my single most, inspiring comic book artist. I think he inspired me more than any other comic book artist. So I can go back to the New Mutants run that he had again and again and again and always see something that inspires me because that meant so much to me as a kid. But on the other hand, as a kid, I just took everything at face value. I never thought, oh, this is different, or this is avant-garde, or that's a different way. I had no clue. I was 11. I just thought that's what it should look like. I never thought, oh, gee, Cannonball's head is really rectangular and lopsided. I just thought, oh, that's just how it is. So let me show you this one and what I'm trying to capture, and you can be the judge whether I'm getting close at all. Boom, 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 boom. That's a catchy theme song, you got to admit. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. All right, let me see if I can do this. He says boldly. All right, I'm going to look at this. All right, let's try that again. So I'm going to try to put up the panel. And you can, I don't know if you guys were fans of the Demon Bear, but it's just, to me, it's some of the best comic art that's ever been done. Let me see if I can find it here. I think we'll have it here. Is that on there? Okay, yeah, so here we go. Can you see this all right?
Oh, yeah.
So what got me is that you have the bear, and the bear, you don't even see the whole monster, right? The monster's cut off at the shoulders, but you see the hands. And then you see Danny Moonstar, and she's floating in front of the monster, and she's a silhouette. But this is the thing that gets you. She's like a silhouette in white. The idea that you could silhouette something in white really blew me away, right? So I thought, I'm going to take my characters from Tales of Zero, and we have a monster, you know, and our monster is a little bit like the Demon Bear in that it can pop up anywhere and it can take almost any shape. So I'm going to take Rick and his dog from my comic Tales of Zero, and I'm going to try to superimpose him against the black or dark body of the monster and leave him as a negative space white silhouette and see if I can pull that off. So that was my entire challenge to myself. And we'll see how I do. And we'll draw for a little bit, and then Luke, at some point we can hear a full rundown on the hybrids universe, where your inspiration came for that, how's it going so far, what's new in this issue, and then how far this thing is going to run for you. But for now, let's just draw and chat a little bit.
I like the way that sounds.
All right, cool. I'm going to unshare that. I'm a broadcast excellence. So here, I did the pencils on this first. I've actually kind of gotten into this thing where I do the pencils, then I light box those. So here's my original pencils. You can probably barely see them. Yeah, they're pretty faint. But there's the guy and his dog. And there's the shapeless monster, the shapeless tentacle monster. And I have him on this sort of, stepped pyramid in this jungle city, which is very much typical of what Tales of Zero is about. And then I did one layer of inks just to get the texture of the monster, because the monster in the story is a gelatinous liquid that can take any form. And that's hard to draw, okay? It's hard to draw a gelatinous liquid that can take any form, So here's was my first inks. And I'm just trying to get the texture. So look at this. See that?
Oh, nice.
So it's like I'm just trying to get what would the surface of this thing be, right? And then I put that down, and then I light box that. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I'm going in layers. It's like the analog version of Photoshop layers. And on this layer, I added more pencils of what the temple ruins are. I added some planets in the background. So I keep adding layers. And then when I finally get to the final layer, which hopefully will become the drawing, I can keep redoing that layer until I like it. So look at this one. This is one I did where it's almost complete. Look at this. You see the negative space?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's almost complete. But once it was at this level, I saw all these things I wanted to do better. So now I go back to the layer before and I start over. So it's kind of funny. It's like the analog version of Photoshop layers. I got to the top layer, but then I realized I wasn't happy with it. So I'm going back down a few layers until I'm satisfied, and hopefully the finish will be good. So that's my process right now. And we'll see. And what are you using for pens, JB? You're using all Walmarts?
Yeah, for sure. Walmart, some stuff I ordered on Amazon. I think like the best thing I have are the Micron pens.
Yeah, it's funny with the Micron pens because I haven't gotten much out of those, but this one here, is it the Pilot G2 gel pen?
Mm-hmm.
This you can get at any CVS or whatever. This is a pretty sweet pen. What I like about this is it really flows. The liquid actually kind of pours out. You can smudge it. Unlike some pens, you can't even smudge it. So when this thing is going, you really are controlling that liquid line. And then the other one I love is a absolutely baseline standard Bic ballpoint pen. That's like your grayscale king right there. You just do some light hatching with that, and you can bring in so many shades. And then I've been using these.
Those old school big ballpoint pens. I don't know.
It
seems so natural to me.
Well, I think that's the thing. Is it that we've just as children logged so many friggin' hours on it that our touch sensitivity is super acute? Like I can make a thin line, a thick line. I can control that sucker, Where when you give me something with more play, like this is a Tombow brush pen with like a really fat end, This thing is big. Look at the size of this thing. It takes a lot of finesse to control that, right? I'm not a professional inker, so this is like too much too much equipment for someone of my skill level. It actually, you really have to have the finesse. These are good though. I like this one. This is from Tombow as well. It's the Fudenosuke. Yes, my Japanese is flawless. And it's a brush pen that's smaller and a little firmer. This is also really good. These are super cheap. These I saw these for sale at the local drug store as well in like the crafts department. So Japanese brush pens are becoming a little commonplace, which is good.
Cool.
I think that they have the Japanese dollar store pens. Those ones are widely used too. So it doesn't have to cost a lot. But the microns, it's weird. I don't. Again, maybe the microns are just beyond my skill level. I just couldn't quite get what I wanted out of them yet.
Yeah, it took me a while to get used to, but they do the job.
Yeah. But again, I'm mostly a writer and a colorist, so. I thought when I started this little show that it would be fun to make the point of it a little bit, the point of it to be ink, and not necessarily inking in the fully developed sense of the word, but the idea that we're putting something down.
Right.
It's gonna be there after we close the show today. There it is. A thing exists.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like when you put it down in ink, it exists. It's there for a while. You could redo it, but it's really there. And then I thought that would be an excuse for me to get better too at inking. I've been looking at some of these small, what were they called? I guess they were just indie, but back in '86, there was Eternity, there was First, there was Eclipse, there was Malibu. Do you know what I mean? These labels, and they were on every shop, and you'd like, what's coming from First? What's coming from Malibu, Eclipse? And so I have a lot of those. And it's funny to look at the inking style in those books because it's really kind of deeply rooted in Bronze Age Marvel and DC. But you're seeing like a different cadre of workmanship using the same techniques. And so when I go and I try to emulate the inking in those books, I can get pretty close sometimes. Because I grew up with that inking style, the Bronze Age or late 70s, early 80s, middle 80s inking style. And I totally admire it. It's something beautiful. But and it's weird. I only see a few people who even try to get it, because I guess it looks old now. It doesn't look contemporary. What's Luke? Tell us about how you started drawing. What were your early inspirations, comic creation wise, and maybe segue into where you are today?
Well, honestly, I started drawing when I was about 3 years old. Mm-hmm. My mom and dad used to go out to this little diner place in our hometown in Kokomo, Indiana, mm-hmm. and they would stay out drinking coffee till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning at times. And
wow.
they had a toddler. Yeah, great parenting moves, right?
I'm a parent, so I got no room to judge.
Yeah, I'm not mad at them because what happened was I had to self-entertain, and so what they did is they gave me a pen and a paper, and mm-hmm. so that's my first recollection of drawing was sitting there at that diner table just scribbling away, and then when I was about 5 years old, my dad brought home a couple comic books from mm-hmm. one of his friends at work. Said, "Hey, I know your kid's into He-Man and things like that. Maybe you like
right,
this."
Of course.
And so I got the Mike Zeck run of one or two of the issues of the Secret Wars. And I fell in love with comic books right then and there.
Oh, yeah. That's a great place to jump on. Fantastic.
I've actually gotten quite fast now. I use I did traditional for a long time, but to speed up and kind of be able to share work with people, partners from around the world, I started working with digital. And so,
mm-hmm. What software do you use?
I've recently moved from Photoshop to Clip Studio, so that's what I've got. That's what I've got sharing the screen right now. So,
yeah, I tell myself I'm like a kid with a paper route. I tell myself someday when you're really good, I'm gonna buy you Clip Studio. That's what I tell myself. So yeah, I want to make that move someday too. It's not even expensive. I don't know why I even treat myself like I have to work for it. I should just get it. But I guess
I was slumming going to Clip Studio because it was cheaper than Photoshop.
No, but I see people get such good results from it, and it seems really versatile. Like I'll tell you something. We're not supposed to bash on this show. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to speak from the hip a little bit here. I think a lot of comic book art all looks the same. And I think a lot of comic coloring all looks the same. And I think Photoshop is to blame. You know, you learn keystroke combinations and you're like, I did the thing and I hit this thing and I apply this filter and I turn in the page, and like they're tips of the trade, you know. But when I see people working in Clip Studio, I see a lot more variety of voice. You know, people's lines look different in Clip Studio. People's color palettes look different. So I think people fall into habits with Photoshop, and now those habits have become industry standard. And then it's a loop, because if you draw that way, you look like you're a professional. But then if you draw that way, you kind of look like everybody else. So it's this sort of like double-edged sword. But so I would applaud Clip Studio. I see a lot of stuff coming out of that. We just see the artist's voice a little more loud and clear. And what I said may be a crass generalization, so nobody take me to the bank on it. But that's just one Smurf's opinion. But yeah, I would like to get Clip Studio eventually. Right now, I do my digital drawing on a program called Medibang.
That's not bad.
It's free. Have you ever seen it? It's it's pretty good. I enjoy it. It does everything I need to do. You know, I'm not an artist first and foremost. If people were depending on, like you, if I was actually the artist on a book, yeah, I'd want my equipment to be a little more professional maybe. But, you know, I do a lot of my layouts by hand. I do my colors in Medibang, and it's just, it's all good.
I really like the feel of the pen, you know, with Clip Studio. And it feels very natural with the pull compared to Photoshop. I feel like I had to tweak that a lot, but I'm using a Ueon tablet. I used an XP pen for a while, and it just the pen nib wasn't responsive enough. And you know, I'm picky, but you know, I'm like a Wacom taste, but I'm on a Ueon budget. So
yeah, absolutely. No, and you know, it's funny how the Ueon and stuff like that is. It's like when you find something that fits and feels good in your hand, price tag doesn't matter all of a sudden, you know, because it starts to work for you. Yeah. So your tablet, and you have like set up all your hotkeys and everything, so you just can make it happen. Because I was working with a tablet, and I'm like looking up where's the erase button, and I was just like, God, I really need to get those hotkeys or whatever, so I'm not constantly looking up, you know. So did you set up all that stuff, like all your favorite keys?
Yeah, I did. I got actually Clip Studio makes this little thing, like a little handheld remote thing, and so I use
really?
That.
Oh, cool,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so you can map that, and it works pretty nice. So
all right, I
like little gadgets like that, so it made me happy.
Yeah, well, honestly, if I do it, I'm going to need that gadget, because a few times I tried to work from a tablet, I found I was just wasting time craning my neck up, being like, wait, where's the undo button? Wait, which one is erase? And, you know, it wasn't automatic where, you know, you can just throw your hand up and hit it and then get back on track. So it's like anything. It's like being a musician. All right, so tell us about your crowdfunding career, last year to this year, where you are, where you want to get to.
Yeah, so I've been crowdfunding for a long time. So I started back in 2015. People weren't really crowdfunding back then, so it was kind of a new venture. But we kind of saw the value on what you could do with comic books by doing that, and so started crowdfunding back then. We had a little bit of trouble to start with, you know, because we didn't know what we were doing. No one really did.
Yeah.
So there was people that just, they weren't fulfilling, you know, and we still have that problem to this day. But it is what it is, you know. So started doing that back in 2015, and then we started making them, you know, I took a little bit of time off. You know, real life, you know, kind of happens sometimes.
Oh yeah, real life, it's real.
Yeah. And so we took a little bit of time off, and when I came back, like, the game had changed so much, you know, there was Indiegogo and things like that, and so I continued to just try to kind of find a new market for that and a new audience. You know, because a lot of the people that I had been selling to with crowdfunding from the time I'd been off had gotten some, you know, they'd had some bad experiences with books not showing up and things like that. So some of those people had just abandoned crowdfunding altogether. So I would say probably 2018, 2019 is when I really started getting back into the crowdfunding thing. And so was able to really start to apply myself to the art again. And and so that was
And do you have a reliable team that you work with, or are you a team of one?
Yeah, I was a team of one, but I work with a colorist who's been with me since issue 1 on this book.
Oh, that's great.
I sometimes work with a layout artist just because it speeds the process up.
Mm-hmm.
So I just realized you guys can't even see what I'm drawing right now. But
but you look good, and that's what matters. Do you want me to switch
got the hair flip? Got the flip going. Yeah, sure. If you want.
Oh, there we go. How's
Nobody
that?
wants to see my ugly mug.
Look at those.
Your screens too, though. They need to see what you guys are drawing too.
Yeah, I'll do it for a second. We're gonna highlight you. You're the guest. JB, look at these lines. Doesn't it make you want to rush out and get Clip Studio Paint?
Yeah.
Look at that. Damn, it looks good. It looks really good.
My tablet broke because I have a kid as well, and you drop it on the floor and.
Yeah, it's a funny thing about those devices, those multi-$100. Let's just watch his work here. So he's doing it. He's doing a leg. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, this is nice. I'm like watching the flow. So these are like tapered lines, and the pressure is the width and everything. I'm like studying.
Yeah. On my pencil, the pressure is the darkness. Just like it would be for a pencil.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the ink lines, obviously, it's solid black. It is it is the width of the line, and so I've got it set up to where I can go, like that.
Yep.
And that's what I like about it, because when I used to draw with real paper and ink, you make a
I know.
you make a fat, you make a
one mistake,
and
you are done.
Here it's a lot easier to fix those things, and so I will actually like this. I didn't do a full pencil. I will go in and I'll do a partial pencil, and then I'll just start inking now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you can. Yeah, what I do is, because generally speaking, is I'll do a pencil. I'll do a pretty complete drawing, and then I'll bring it into Medibang or software, and just then I can fix anything I didn't like. Oh, this line didn't look good, move it. This ink didn't look good, move it. So yeah, digital's cool that way. You can go back and get a few do-overs if you need them. But and I think it's really cool to draw direct to ink. That's, some people can do that in real life, and we can all kind of play around with that in the software environment. But so what were your titles in the first wave of crowdfunding?
Believe it or not, Hybrids was actually in there.
Okay.
But it wasn't my main book. I was actually working on a book called Worst Day Ever. And I wanted to, that was kind of my main title. I thought was going to be the one people were going to notice and take note of. But it didn't work out that way. I wound up doing Hybrids because we were with a small imprint that had decided that what we needed was a superhero type book. We didn't have anything of that kind of fit in that genre. And I had this science fiction thing where these, basically what we did is we took the idea, in the book of Genesis, there's a verse that talks about the sons of God or angels seeing the daughters of men and liking what they see, and then procreating. And I had talked with an old pastor friend, many years ago about that instance. And it was, the fact that we thought it was interesting that those writings actually predated the Greek gods by about 1,500 years. And there was actually some precedents to believe that the Greek gods were actually inspired by the Nephilim creatures. And that. So we had this idea for a story. I had this idea for a story, and he's like, you should make it a comic book. And I just sat on it for a very long time. I sat on that thing. And finally I pitched that idea. I said, hey, it's kind of this, but I said, it's not just about the powers. I said, what I want to do is, it's like people start having these powers and then someone's abducting the people, so there's like this superhuman trafficking ring and all this kind of cool stuff with it.
Oh, cool.
And so that was kind of the idea. And that's when we pitched, when they said, hey, go ahead. Let's do that book, write it. And so
get it on our desk.
Yeah. And so I did a rough draft of the script, and they liked it. And so it wound up being one of the books that we put on the catalog. And so between that, The Worst Day Ever, and then I was working with a guy named Bobby who did Rapid Eye, and we did a couple other books too with that company, and crowdfunded those things, and it went pretty good. It was pretty nice. It was quite an adventure. We wanted to. I'd taken books to a couple different publishers and gotten nowhere with it. And it was nice to have that ability because we found out how easy it was to kind of print your own books.
I know.
Or get quality books done.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, my background is mostly in music, and back in the olden days, if you had your band and you were sounding good, and you were like, "Oh, we're gonna make a CD," they're like, "Great, come on down, minimum 3,000."
Yeah,
and you were just like, "Oh God, man, we're never gonna do that." And now in comics, it's amazing what the minimum print runs are. It's really affordable, and the quality is high. So, your comic is your demo tape, your comic is your movie, it's your student film, it's your album, it's your passion project. So if people have that creative desire, this is a time, Yeah. And I think it's also the time for voices we haven't heard yet. You're like, let's hear the voices we haven't heard yet,
I think the cool thing about even with music is it's about, because I have a pretty solid background in music. It's the same there too. Now is the time to be able to create. So if you want to do that album, whatever it is that you want to do, now's the time to do it.
Absolutely. I find it, we don't have to get on a terribly long music tangent, but I find, this is my opinion, Smurf's opinion, asterisk, you're now entering the opinion part of the show, that music is very devalued in our culture right now, that it's like everything's free. So why should I go see your band, or why should I buy your album? It's just like everything's free, and you have the whole and I use Spotify, so I'm no angel. I love Spotify, but it's just like we're living at a time now when you talk about you have to go to the show or buy the CD. There's 20 years of people who don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, ooh, it made me think about what my goals were in music when I realized that the whole public perception of what music should be, how it's reached, how it's shared, how it's enjoyed is maybe not how it was when I grew up. So it's a different game now. But I do agree with you in terms of creation. There's never been a better time to create, because you can just, with Bandcamp, you can set up a free account, and you can be, someone in Japan can be listening to your song in 10 minutes. That is amazing, right?
Yeah.
So we have that ability to be internationally hearable. So yeah, I still do music, but I feel like the comics world for me is a little more inspiring, because nobody can have that surrogate experience. If I hear your song and it's free download, and I'm like, press play, and I'm like, skip to the next one. And I'm like, hey, did you check out my demo? Oh yeah. But you really didn't check it out, right?
Yeah.
It was free, and it was easy to just hear. But with a comic, it's like if you sit down and by the third page you actually are into the story, you're not going to put it down.
Yeah, you're going to read it. And
you're going to read it, and then when you say to the person, "Do you read my comic?" They're not going to kind of half tell the truth and be like, "Yeah." They're probably going to say, "No, I didn't get to it." Oh yeah, it was amazing. There's no middle ground. Either that didn't grab them or it did. And I think that kind of experience is harder to just mass produce, especially when you, as an artist or a writer, you have a voice, you have something they can't get anywhere else, visually, or like with the background you're talking about with the Nephilim or whatever, some story they can't hear anywhere else, or some voice they can't hear anyone else. So I kind of think as the auditory is getting a little bit oversaturated, people have seen everything in CGI. They've seen the Avengers, they've seen every CGI effect. It doesn't impress them anymore. But like a Kirby thing going thwack, that's actually kind of cool, right? That's cool, right? That's actually got, in some ways, it's more impressive.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing they can't do or haven't seen it in a movie now, So it's like, oh, you have this effect. It's like, yeah, we saw it. Like, what's next? What's the next level of CGI or green screen effects? God knows, But some of the basic visual storytelling and comic book effects, there's people who've never seen those effects and never had a story kind of brought to them that way. So I think there's a wide open market for this type of visual storytelling. And plus, not that I'm on a tangent right now, but plus you've got all these parents who, I want to do something with my kid, but I don't want them to have any screen time. But bing, right there. There's your market.
Comic books.
There's your market. Think of how many parents right now are saying, I want my kid to have a thing, but I don't want it to be on a screen. There's your market. There you go. Anybody watching at home? Hey, Zaid Studios. Oh my God. Welcome, buddy. Welcome. Zaid Studio's in the chat. Thank you. He's enjoying my sermon here. Yeah, exactly, right? Am I right, Zaid, or am I right? It's like, not only do we have a way to tell a story that the special effects, the explosions, they happen in the mind of the reader. There's no better special effects on earth than the ones in your mind, right? And they're unique to each person, so they don't wear out. And then you have all these parents who want their kids to have an activity without screens. So there's just so many reasons why this is the time and this is the moment. As I'm going to go at Eminem, this is the moment. Even though that's not my generation, I'm older than that. So Zaid Studios is in the chat with us. I'm right, buddy. I know. I love being right. That's why I love having my own show where I can just be right all the time. All right, well, let's do a little update. So I'm going to show you how far I've gotten since last time I put this up. This is me inking over my own inks over my own pencils, right? So this is like the fourth iteration. And the whole payoff is going to be that this figure and this dog are left blank.
You still have me up on the screen. You got to pull yours up.
Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry about that. Yeah, of course. Hey, I know what I'm doing. I am good, man.
Can't see you, man.
Here we go. Thank you. So here's your ruins, your alien jungle. Here's your formless monster, your Shoggoths, if you will. And then there's a boy and his dog, right? And the trick is going to be to leave the boy and the dog blank. Leave them as inverted silhouettes. Leave them as white space. And then have the composition work. So that's how I'm doing so far. This is my inking over my own inks over my own pencils. And JB, you want to show us what you got? You want to just hold it up to the camera and check in with us?
If you can see how well you can see. Let's see.
Oh, wait, let me make your screen. Can I make your screen? Yeah. Hey, there we go. Oh, that looks great.
Fantastic.
Look at the faces. And the muscles are rocking.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
one
great.
Thing about the original, like they're kind of more stumpy, like they have less muscle.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I like the mouths on the original, how the center of their lip always drooped down below their bottom jaw. They were, yeah, but it was funny because it could alternate between cute and mean like that.
Yeah, right.
So they could make the face with their bottom lip was like merp, merp, and then all of a sudden they turn and they squint their eyes and it was like go time.
Yeah, right.
It was like a really good character design on Eastman and Laird's part. So Zaid Studio, yeah. Oh, isn't that good? Isn't that good, Zaid? It's amazing. Now, Zaid, if you wanted to, you could hit me on Twitter and I could put you on live with us if you'd be interested. So Zaid, if you want to hit me on Twitter, I will give you the link and you can come on and be live with us. You don't have to just be in the chat because you've got a project coming up, don't you? So feel free to talk about your project as well if you'd like. All right. Yeah, I don't know. We got who we got. Now we'll leave it on your screen for a while, JB, so people can just watch your he's using the microns, folks. He's gone beyond the Walmart. It is so funny how different pens are though. I love some of these pens. And there's this one. I don't know what this one is called. This one is very good too. This is it's like buy it at your local store. It's a Jetstream by Uni. It's another one where it's a gel type pen, and when you roll it, it just rolls and the ink just flows right out of it. Feels good. All right. So now I'm having my next moment where I need to go up a layer. I'm going to highlight my screen for a second. Hey, Kino Subway, glad you're here. But yeah, I've got my DMs open on my phone here. So Zaid, if you want to come on, hit me on Twitter and I'll send you the link. Kino Subway, good to see you. So yeah, the funny thing is for me, I'm a writer, I'm a colorist, I'm not an artist. But as you can see here, my whole mission is to create contrast with these white figures, which means I need to bring the tone of the whole image way, way towards the black, right? And that's not going to be easy to do. Here's an early try I did. Look at this. This is an early try. So you see how I use again. Oh, geez, yeah, of course. Geez, let's get that. Yeah, I'm a very skilled broadcaster. So here's an early thing I did where I did this meticulous hatching. You see that? To take the whole tone back so I could get the effect of them silhouetted in white. But I'm just really not happy with it. And I'm also really not happy how I worked so hard to create this gelatinous monster and it came out like a rectangle. You know how frustrating that is? You're like, I need to make a shapeless, formless, gelatinous monster. And then I step back and I'm like, my friend, you drew a rectangle.
I totally understand how that feels like. Yeah.
Oh, we all been there. We've all been there. But here's I tried to put a little more limps and little twigs and branches into him this time. So he looks more like, a ball of mud with arms and legs. So, yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about Tales of Zero for a second, and then we'll jump back to you, Luke, and you can give us the full pitch on the hybrid universe, where the story has been and where it's going to. But just since I'm the host, I'll pitch my book too. We're launching in 2 weeks. We're launching the day after Valentine's Day, and it's a Lovecraftian psychedelic alien jungle adventure with on a futuristic mining colony. These 2 construction workers and a young kid decide they're going to go explore the ruins in the jungle, and they're going to try to find this artifact. And if they can find the artifact, they can have enough money to get off the planet and to sort of make a life for themselves. So it's sort of a misfit gang of adventurers in this sort of diesel punk world where the inside of the mining colony is very technologically savvy, but as soon as you open a panel and step behind the door, it's all held together with pipes and grease and gears. Like it's not slick. Only the people who are in it think it's slick, And so the construction workers are not fooled because they built it. They know that it's sort of a pretty cheap facade. And there's also an implication that the company who paid for it all has mined the last of what they call novinium, and that they're just not coming back. That if they leave those people in this artificial sort of like environment and never come back for them, it's probably cheaper than paying for them to be evacuated. So most of the people inside the mining colony are living this kind of like shopping mall existence. The inside of the mining colony looks like a shopping mall now because the hard work has been done. But there's this implication that no one's coming back for them. So when they're in the jungle, they eventually meet up with, spoiler alert, a formless gelatinous monster who is going to devour them. And it's, Clark Ashton Smith, the writer of this story that it's based on, was a pen pal and collaborator with Lovecraft. And so I don't know if you guys are Lovecraft fans or not, but do you know what a Shoggoth is?
No.
Okay, let me tell you what a Shoggoth is. You see, you got to know. This is when you get into like the Lovecraft, like because Cthulhu is a meme now, right? So everybody can say like Cthulhu rubber duck and Cthulhu bathroom slippers and Cthulhu towels. But a Shoggoth is like, it's a little bit more of like a deeper lore. So, you had the gods, the old gods, and Cthulhu was one of the old gods. And these were races of cosmic monsters that inhabited the earth, billions and centuries and millions of years before there were such things as human beings, right? So these are these cosmic entities, the old gods. And the idea is that somehow on Earth, there are these cults who are doing rites that will invoke the reawakening of these old gods, and they will reclaim it, and that will be the apocalypse to destroy humanity. That's the basic Lovecraftian setup. Well, one of the groups of the old gods created the Shoggoths as their worker bees. So the Shoggoths were a shapeless, gelatinous thing, and it could form itself into any shape to do any job. So they made the Shoggoths to do all their work for them. And then, of course, the Shoggoths eventually attained some degree of rudimentary intelligence and decided they didn't want to work anymore and, kind of rose up against the elder gods. And so Shoggoths are one of these things that even the elder gods are kind of afraid of because you can't reason with it. It doesn't have an intellect. It's just a mean mother, and it will eat you, and it will turn itself into any shape it needs. So that's kind of what the monster in the story Tales of Zero is very much like that. Clark Ashton Smith had his version of Cthulhu. His signature elder god was called Tsathoggua. And so I think people have read this story and they thought that the monster that chased them was Tsathoggua. But I don't think that's a correct reading of the story. Tsathoggua is the older god who's actually kind of keeping back the Shoggoth. So when the party desecrates the temple of Tsathoggua, they inadvertently release the Shoggoth. I hope that this incredibly deep inside baseball talk is riveting to people. But, it's funny how these things can be misunderstood. That people will think that Tsathoggua is this gelatinous monster, but Tsathoggua is not a gelatinous monster. If you read it carefully, you'll see Tsathoggua is vaguely frog-shaped. And so that's the idol that Zero and his gang are trying to steal. They're trying to steal this frog-shaped idol from the temple. And then by doing that, by taking the frog-shaped idol out of its place, that was the protection that the alien race used to keep the Shoggoths at bay. So they inadvertently released this Shoggoth. So there you go. A little Lovecraftian lore for you fine folks, if you didn't know what a Shoggoth was. And there's a great story, one of the best stories in the Lovecraft world, not by Lovecraft, by Robert E. Bloch. It's called Notebook Found in a Deserted House, which is a great title. And it is a legitimately scary story. It is a little bit like The Shining in that, like, you start to identify with the loneliness of the characters, and then when the horror hits, you feel just as trapped as the characters. So the Notebook Found in an Abandoned House, it's like this guy, and it happens in rural New England, and he's sort of an orphan or whatever, and his parents are killed at a young age, so he goes and stays with his weird grandma or weird uncle, and he's always heard that they might be into witchcraft and stuff, but he doesn't believe in it. And then he arrives at their farm, and there's all these signs that weird stuff is going on. And oh my God, it is a terrifying book, actually. You know, because it's so mundane. It doesn't happen on like a faraway planet. It happens in normal reality. And then eventually there's a Shoggoth in that story too. And it's one of the best depictions of, like, how do you draw a picture of something that has no form? How do you describe it? And so that, if you ever want to read another classic Shoggoth story, that's one where the way it shows up in the story is really shocking and actually frightening. So that's what I'm drawing. For those of you wondering, why are you drawing a gelatinous, formless beast that can manifest tentacles and mouths and eyes however it needs? And that's what it is. So to draw a Shoggoth is literally like impossible, right? Because they have no shape and they have no form. So that was what I set up for myself. But if you want to see how we did it, you're going to back Tales of Zero. You can get on the mailing list now and get with us after Valentine's Day when we launch. And we're going to start releasing fully inked pages once the campaign starts. Right now, all of our pages are just pencils and colors, and they still look amazing because our artist is a friggin' genius. I'm not the artist. I'm just the script writer and the colorist. So that's a little Tales of Zero pitch. I want to throw to you, Luke, and tell us about the world of hybrids. We understand there's Nephilim involved, but just give us a little more.
Yeah, we have Nephilim, and we have normal people, and we have demons and angels, and we explore ancient aliens and conspiracy theories.
Oh, good stuff, good stuff.
We tie all of that stuff together into this nice action-packed story. It starts out with kind of these characters that I've drawn here.
Okay.
This guy named Trash Man, it's his first day being a hybrid. He's kind of learned his abilities, and we get to experience the story through his eyes. And he so basically what happens is we find out that there is this human trafficking ring that is targeting the superpowered individuals, and so we have to try to find out where they're taking them, why they're taking them, and ultimately who's behind it. And so that's what we learned in the first arc, which wrapped up last year. And this new arc is called The Killing Field. And so we've gone kind of beyond the basis of the story. We find out that the organization that's behind all of this is got deeper ties into things than what they even realized, and that it's now a global threat that includes an elite new drug as well as this human trafficking, and so there's kind of untold threats that are there, but it gets real ugly for our good guys throughout this thing. So,
and this is taking place in contemporary time? This is taking place in biblical times?
This is contemporary. This is contemporary. So it's kind of an alternate reality to our own, obviously.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, maybe not though, because I watch a lot of YouTube videos.
We don't follow current events or anything like that. Yeah. So there's a different president. There's no such thing as COVID there. All that. Mm-hmm. Their threats are far more threatening than our own, I think. So
absolutely.
So that's kind of what it's about. It's basically the Book of Enoch meets the movie Taken.
Okay. Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with that, and it's pretty fast paced, action packed, and
And is it a team? Is it a team book? The hybrids are a team.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is
Right.
if you like those '90s team books, you
tell us
definitely
about
get that.
the powers and what makes each team member. You know, how they all work together.
Sure. Well, it's ran by this guy named Doc. He's kind of the main protagonist behind the group, and not Doc. I'm sorry, Doc is my bad guy. His name's Rev. It's about 12:30 for me, so I'm a little.
Oh yeah, well, it's late for us too, but we soldier on.
Yeah, so Rev is a normie, as they like to call him. He's normal. He doesn't have any powers, but his wife and daughter were abducted, and so he has some friends who were also developed some powers. And so in the midst of it, they figured out how they could, in trying to find out where his family was taken, they started to break up some of these abductions. They interfered with some of them, and so some of these potential abductees joined up with Rev and his team. And so Rev and Danny are two normal guys that are just trying to find family.
I see.
Trash Man, or Clarence is his real name, but he goes by Trash Man because he doesn't like his name. And he is he's kind of like our everyday guy. He's like our the person that we get to see learn about this world through. And he's big. He's got a lot of strength to him. He's kind of like a Hulk character in that sense.
Yeah.
But he also finds out he's invulnerable. And not only is he invulnerable, whenever he takes damage, actually stores up an inner battery that he can then release that energy at will. So that's kind of a neat thing.
Yep.
He meets up with a brother and sister duo, Chlorine, who has the ability to turn herself into a gaseous chlorine form, gaseous form, and then her brother, who has the ability to teleport. And then there's then they have another guy named Link, who has the ability to literally link into any kind of electronics and kind of control that stuff with his brain and stuff. So
cool.
It's pretty cool stuff. Yeah. So and then we've got our bad guys right now. This is Trash Man punching out this guy named Fuji. His name is Fuji Katakana, and they call him Mount Fuji because his skin is made of rock. So.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah. So they don't know how old he is or how long he's been around, but he's a pretty tough guy.
And he's a bad guy?
Yeah, he's one of our villains in this.
So. Cool. That's all right. Cool. Yeah, Chlorine. I saw a picture, a poster, a pinup of Chlorine, and I thought that was kind of interesting. I always had a thing for characters with green hair. Going back to Miria Sterling from Robotech. That was an early crush right there. Do you remember Miria Sterling from Robotech?
I do.
Oh my goodness. That was a crush for me. That was a crush for me. I was just knocked out by her. Yeah, team books are cool. Team books are a lot of fun, and it's the world is open. Somebody was telling me like, oh, you can't do a strong guy who's orange because it's too much like The Thing or something. And I'm thinking, man, that was 1962. It's all open. It's all open again. Like I could have a guy. You could have a guy. I could have a guy. Like it begins again. There comes a point at which like we're so saturated that if I wanted to make a character who's like Batman, but he's not, but he is, and I have a story to tell, I should tell that story. No part of me should being like, oh, it's too much like Batman. Baloney, man. Batman isn't even like Batman anymore. All the characters have been taken so far that the clock kind of reset. I have an idea for a Green Lantern type character. I always liked, as a kid, I didn't understand Green Lantern at all. I was much more of a Marvel guy. But recently I've come to really appreciate Green Lantern. And I have an idea for a character like that, and if I ever do it someday and someone's like, well, that's a lot like Green Lantern, I'll say, you think? I just wanted to do my own take on that sort of setup, there's nothing wrong with that. All these setups are kind of tried and true at this point. Nobody's really going to be too worried if you're trotting on familiar ground. I have another project that I'm working on. It's top secret. It hasn't been announced at all, but it's kind of a little bit in the Wonder Woman zone, where we have a female superhero. It's my first superhero book, actually. I've never done one before, and it's going to be really fun to do. I'm trying to do it. The artist and I, we've got a lot of it underway, but it probably won't see the light of day till 2022. So it's nowhere near the end of the pipeline, but we're having a lot of fun on it. I'm trying to do something that invokes the Silver Age respectfully, Do you know what I mean? Like I thought it'd be really fun to do a Silver Age book that isn't a spoof and isn't like mocking, like, oh, those were simpler times and good guys were good and bad guys were bad and the good guy always saves the girl, and you know what I mean? Like, that's so quaint. It's so quaint how that used to be. And I was like, no, I want to do one. I want to do one where like those kind of values are still in play, but it's not a joke, you know? It's not a joke. Just do one. And if you do it well, it'll be good. And if you do it poorly, it'll suck. It's like, you know, it's like anything else, you know, it all comes down to the inspiration and the execution. You know, the dumbest idea executed well is a great idea. And the best idea executed poorly was not a good idea. That's just how it goes, you know? Well, that's really cool. And then what are some other, do you have variant covers? Do you have artists you're partnering with who have the audience?
I had a guy named Nitho Diaz did a cover for this latest campaign. So the campaign actually launched on Monday.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited for that.
And we were able to fund in the first day, so that was really cool.
So
now we're on our way to the first stretch goal. But the real popular cover is a guy named Nitho Diaz did our first variant cover, and he was the artist for G.I. Joe, and so some of the backers were familiar with him and his work, and so I'm doing this face. Since I finished my...
Oh, yeah, you finished your thwack.
I finished my thwack.
All right, let's see. That looks like... Look at that. Isn't that great? Yeah, that's awesome.
I finished that, so I thought...
that's beautiful.
I thought I'd take a crack at this face, you know, just doing something without any guides or anything, so this could turn out really poorly.
Like anything. Yep. Cool. Well, that's great. Congrats. What was your target? Money wise?
$1,200.
And how did you calculate that? You know, and again, any questions where you're like, I'm not going to talk about money, fine. But, you know, let's say I want to do a campaign and I'm doing this calculation. I need to sell this many copies to cover this cost. So I'm going to set my target here. Do you want to share?
Yeah.
If you want to, what your calculations
I have no problem sharing that at all.
Okay, if you want to.
I think it's something that I think a lot of creators need to know.
I think so.
I see them set their goals way too unrealistically.
Agreed.
So I'm the artist, okay? I draw this thing. And I write this thing, and so I don't have a whole lot of overhead.
Right, two of the bases are covered. Yep.
Yeah. I do pay my colorist, and I pay an editor, and I pay the letterer and stuff like that. Even though I can letter it myself, but you know, in order for me to be able to be about promoting, I need to pass some of these tasks.
Absolutely, and a good letterer is so much better than. You know what I mean? I'm at that point too. I do a lot of lettering, but I'm like, God, I just wish I could pay someone way better than me. You know? So cool. All right, yeah. So talk about how you set your price point, and I agree. People put their goals too high.
Yeah, they set their goals way too high, and so I knew what I needed to make to cover printing, you know, and get it into people's hands, because I know what I'll make once I'm back into trade shows and things like that, and what I make kind of post campaign. Yeah. So I was really looking at like, okay, this is how many covers, how many copies of each cover I want to print, and so this is where I'm going to get my, you know, the bulk of it. Okay, so from here, this cover, and then the special cover, I'm going to do that. So I just calculated all of that. I calculated in the extra cost of the cover I had commissioned. And I'm like, okay, this is the base amount that I need, and the number came out to be $1,200, and so I was able to, you know, to make that goal. Sorry, I just got a little distracted.
All right, you guys, I know you're laughing.
You know, like when I'm drawing, I get a little distracted.
Now listen to this. I'm looking at the chat now, and they're laughing at me, and it's so true. I tell you guys, when I start inking, I forget I'm the host, and I don't look at the chat. So Zaid, I invited you to come on. I told you I was going to send you the link, and then he's like, I can't find a way to message you. So Zaid, I think I have to be following you. Of course. Why didn't I think of this? Zaid, I'm sorry. Sorry to make you wait, buddy. And Ryan Wynn, good to see you in the chat too. He says, I can't get link over my character. Not surprised. They're just laughing at me. Joe Catapano is awesome. Definitely. That book looks amazing. Star Circuit. All right. So Zaid, you're on Twitter at Zaid. Is that right? Z-A-D? Put your Twitter handle in the chat, Zaid. I'm the funniest like this. I forget I'm hosting this show. Zaid, can you or if you can find me on Twitter, I'm PurpleSmurf13. Just drop your handle in a comment to my most recent tweet or something, and we'll make this happen. No, Zaid, he gave up on me. He's like, that's Smurf. That's Smurf. Oh, there he is. Go. Awesome. All right. I'm going to follow you, and then you should be able to DM me. Sorry we didn't do this sooner, folks, but it's live TV, right?
That's what happens.
It's live TV. Come on, it's fun. You never know what will happen. Okay, now I'm looking at what you've written here, and when I type that, oh, there must be a reason. Let me try. There must be a reason. All right, when I type that, it says you don't exist. Am I spelling it wrong? This is fun. I like this. I like the feeling that the fates are against us. I like the feeling that we have to overcome great odds to do this. Okay, I think I may have found you. No?
The other way I figure out my like a reasonable expectation is I figure out what my lowest tier is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I figure out like what the average backers that I normally get, which is about 100. And then I figure out, okay, well, if all of them get this lowest tier, you know, then I need to make this amount of money. Then this is what my lowest tier needs to be. And so I just work it until I'm able to meet both of those numbers reasonably to a place where I'm happy.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do too. You know, my creative team for Tales of Zero is 2. It's really awesome. You know, like Matt is pencils, inks, character design, and he's just amazing. And I'm the script writer, layouts, and colors. You know, so like we cover a lot of bases with just 2 of us. You know, so if we do a lot of the work and we don't expect to be paid at a professional rate, we might have the money to hire a really good letterer, you know, and then kind of kick that element to the book to the highest level it can be, you know?
I used to do a lot of lettering for other people. It was actually the thing I've done longest for comics is lettering. So
yeah. Oh, maybe you should letter my book. Maybe I should hire you. Because you know, it's okay, but I mean, all I've done is a first pass. But I just, you know, it's like any trade or any skill. If you've really done it, you know all the little tricks that I'm just guessing at. So yeah, I'm going to definitely consider doing a much better letterer for myself for the finished version of Tales of Zero.
I've got several people I can recommend. I actually stopped lettering. I wanted to focus on sequential on pencils and inks. And so,
all right, well, you can DM me.
My world.
Yeah, DM me some recommendations because I do think in the end, the story is worth a better letterer than me. You know, because I can do it, but I just do it at a journeyman level, and it would just definitely be worth having a much keener eye to it than myself. All right, so Zaid Studios, I'm trying to. All right, thanks, Ryan Wynn. We really appreciate you. Studio Zaid, I still can't quite find you. We can't find each other in the cyberland right now. When I try to find you on Twitter, I don't find you. So see if you can find me. I'm probably the only Purple Smurf 13, you know? And then if you can maybe find the little post on my feed about this drawing show and then comment in the chat, and then I can respond to you. We might find each other. You know? That's one way to do it. Yeah, hybrids does look rad. Ryan is correct.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You know, it's funny with the Nephilim and the Book of Enoch. I've read a ton of that myself. And it's very, very interesting stuff. Another one that I always thought would make a cool story was the, I guess it's called the Enuma Elish, you know, the Babylonian story where they kind of like create the Igigi, or their little workers, which eventually become like human beings. So the gods like have their little powwow, you know, that we need to create these workers. And then one of the gods is like, you know, well, the workers shouldn't be mistreated. And so, it echoes Noah's flood. It echoes Prometheus. You know, it's all those classic archetypes are in there. So that would be a fun one to do too. And then Gilgamesh.
Yeah, Gilgamesh. I was about to say that.
Well, the thing about Gilgamesh is it's like, you look at the history of literature, let's pretend we're like back in the day, back in the 20th century, you're in the history of literature. What do you go back to? You go back to Beowulf and Gilgamesh, right? Well, what are both of those about? They're about heroes and monsters. So it's like, haven't we kind of like the whole idea that we're drawing comics about heroes and monsters? Isn't that the root of literature itself, so to speak? So depends how you want to look at it. But what we're doing is pretty ancient, heroes and monsters is pretty ancient.
Our modern superheroes are kind of like the new gods.
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's good. I'm going to use that title.
Someone wrote a book about that.
I think
somebody wrote that. Somebody wrote that. But the thing about Kirby, though, let's talk about Kirby for a minute. In some ways, Kirby is really square and rectilinear. And then sometimes he just goes bonkers, right? And nothing is square and everything is swimming and no two lines are parallel. Do you ever wonder about that? You ever wonder about what was going on in Kirby's head on some of those panels?
Well, I've heard a little bit of his style and like how he would do things. Like he would get up at noon and he would draw until 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm guessing some of that like weird stuff was probably stuff that was going on near the end of that.
Yeah, near the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because some of that stuff is just beyond, it's beyond where a normal mind would go. I have a copy of OMAC #1. I mean, that's a wild book. In the OMAC #1, it's sort of like you can mail order a woman and she comes in a box and then you assemble her or something. And then OMAC like has to kind of bust that ring, kind of break up that criminal enterprise or something. But it's just like, whoa, man, okay. Yeah, Kirby, whoa. And I think he was trying in OMAC to really push people's sense of good taste and bad taste. He's like, I'm going to tell you some stories that are going to like mess with you, mess with your sense of what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. But yeah, he was something else. Totally amazing.
A lot of talent there.
Oh yeah. And just like a kind of a fearlessness, that people say that, he was, growing up as a kid, he got in a lot of fights. So it's sort of like that ability when he makes a thwack, he actually knows what it feels like to be hit that hard. And that's like, there's something to be said for that. Something to be said for like when you draw a picture of someone taking a punch and really getting decked and you yourself have taken a punch, that's going to hit a little harder when the reader reads it, So.
Yeah, didn't he fight in World War II?
Yeah.
He did. They found out he was a map make that he could draw, and so they had him do recon maps. So we're very fortunate to still have him. Or well, not still now, but to have had him pass the war.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that I saw this picture of the studio, which was like the little gang of artists that included Barry Windsor Smith and Bernie Wrightson. Someone posted this picture of them on Twitter today, and they're all in 70s. They all have like, kind of like the side part mullet and the, mustache, and they're all wearing like tight t-shirts and bell bottoms. And it's just like, wow, man, these guys were like people I really admire. Bernie Wrightson is like, and Barry Windsor Smith are like, geez, that's like deity level ink work. But then you see them and they were just like, they were living their best life,
Yeah.
They were definitely like New York City, living in a tenement, all 7 of them crammed into an apartment, just trying to outdo each other. So it is funny how the context that you're living in informs, what you can do, what you can get away with, what you can inspire in the minds of others. You're drawing on that experience. So those guys were really living the kind of super bohemian life, ultra bohemian, and they could draw Conan and all these outer space worlds and stuff, and just that they were living there full time. They were in their own reality. Another thing that's really interesting is that we have the comics code, and I think people kind of know what that is, but then just go back and really read stuff from the 40s, right? And again, it's like what I want to do with my Silver Age book. It's like, before the comic code, some stuff was more brutal, right? Some crime comics from the 40s are way more brutal than anything we'd see again until the late 90s. So it's funny how that worked, that some of these old books were really brutal in terms of violence and also in terms of like licentiousness, like putting women in dangerous and inappropriate situations and kind of letting the reader get a thrill. That they're going to be rescued, but in that moment you're like, there's a thrill factor, like the way that Wonder Woman always used to get tied up. Do you know how that worked in the 40s? Like in the 40s, that was her thing. Yeah, that was her thing. But it wasn't just her. Like, it was very common that women would put in these like kind of thrillingly desperate scenes and have to be rescued, and stuff was pretty pretty provocative in the 40s. It wasn't like Leave It to Beaver, Yeah. It was really provocative. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how people will assume that like their generation is the first one to like be edgy.
Yeah.
Right.
When no one ever thought of doing that before.
I was watching this video today that was talking about like all of the kind of innuendo jokes in Disney movies, and one of them was in Bambi.
Yeah.
And it's like these guys weren't that innocent.
Oh my God, have you seen Fantasia? I mean, the part with the centaurs, I don't know if you remember that, but the women, they're these centaur women, they're topless, they're bathing, they're brushing their hair and like shaking the water off so they wriggle their shoulders and their bare breasts and everything. It's like that was somebody's kink right there. That was 100% somebody's kink, and they got to put it in full color, So it's so funny how like we show that to kids, but Fantasia was actually written for adults. When Disney premiered it, it was considered for adults. And
obviously had some kink in it.
Oh my, sure did. Oh my gosh. And the funny thing is they I think they go back and mine that. So if you pause on some of those centaurs' facial expressions, you can be like, oh look, it's Belle. Oh look, it's Ariel. Like all the Disney princesses, they just like pulled. Oh, centaur number 5, we'll use her for the next movie. Oh, centaur number 7, let's use her for the next movie. So you can see a lot of the Disney faces all the way back in 40. But another thing that I think we've mentioned on this show before, but I think it stands to reason, is that during the Vietnam era, what comics meant to the soldiers. So there's this whole idea that like, oh, comics are for kids, and maybe they are, but comics have always been for 20 and over as well.
Oh yeah.
Always. In the 40s, obviously they were like basically R-rated in the 40s. And then even in the 60s, the Green Lanterns and the things, half of their audience, or a huge part of their audience, were like enlisted soldiers in Vietnam. So it's like, you just got to think about that. Your readership is kids, but the readership of comics has always included like people in their 20s and people who are still finding their place in life and need these stories and need the escapism because of whatever they're facing in their everyday circumstances. You just imagine like if you're serving in Vietnam and like you get some downtime and you can read a comic and it could take you out of that space for a while, how valuable that would be. I remember there's one comic we had when I was a kid, and it was like this comic, we got it at a garage sale, and it just lived in the back seat of our car for a while. And it was a Sergeant Rock.
Yeah.
And it was like Bulldozer's Letter was the name of it. And man, I read it 1,000 times in the back of the car, 1,000 times. I guess that's Joe Kubert, but of course I didn't know what I was reading. I didn't know that it was anything other than like a throwaway book. I didn't realize that the artist was like legendary, but it's really good. The storytelling in some of those war comics was really excellent,
Oh yeah.
So it's funny how that works, the relationship between comic books and the people actually serving in the military, and then comic books about people serving in the military, and then comic books about people serving in the military who are meant for people currently serving in the military, Then there's another thing, since we're going on 7 tangents, another thing that's a little weird is like how Marvel reacted to September 11th. Oh, we're not doing politics. But I thought the Marvel reaction to September 11th was a little jingoistic. Not that the whole country wasn't, but there was this a little bit of like an America F yeah vibe at Marvel, And it's kind of funny because I don't think the current Marvel would endorse some of that, So it's just funny how like the times change and reaction to historical situations changes. But that was just a funny one. If you go back and look at books from Marvel from 2002 or 2003, you're going to see a lot of stuff that's like Jack Bauer. You know, like the threat is the terrorist with a suitcase nuke. You know, that's the new threat that's in every comic and stuff. And I'm kind of glad they got away from that, because that didn't really help anybody. But it's just kind of funny how real world situations are portrayed in these comics. There's also a great Green Lantern arc with John Stewart, the Mosaic arc. I think it was in the early 90s. That is so good. So friggin' good. And it's sort of about, like, you know, people talk about like illegal aliens, and that's a hot topic in this, but these things have been hot topics forever. So I think in that John Stewart arc, it's like these aliens get settled on the Earth, and then some people on the Earth don't like them, and it kind of plays into the immigrants, that kind of politics, but it's handled really, really well. You know, so yeah, you can do politics, right? You can do it. It can be done. You know? But
it just can't be an agenda. I think when it becomes an agenda, it loses something.
Yeah, I think there's a smugness. It's like in my Smurf village, we have a saying. You ready for this? This is an old Smurf proverb that was taught to be my grandpappy Smurf. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
He who thinks he has nothing to learn certainly has nothing to teach. And what I mean by that is, if I'm smug and I'm like, of course I'm right, Luke, of course I'm right. So Luke, let me talk to you for a while, because I'm right. Like, if that's my lead-off pitch to you, you probably shouldn't listen to me. Like, a person who is so believes that they're right is probably not open to learn. So find someone who's open to learn and learn from them. You know what I mean? It's like learning's a two-direction street. And I think that's where the politics in comics sometimes goes wrong, where it's like it's assumed that there's a right, wrong, and that the writer of the comic is right. Where that's not a fun way to explore an issue. You know, a fun way to explore an issue is, let's assume we don't know, and let the characters make discoveries, and let the reader make discoveries, and let's challenge our assumptions, you know? So that's the whole idea. There's a smugness to political discourse that once that smugness is detected, it's a turnoff. People just don't want to be taught by someone who thinks they have nothing to learn. I mean, that's a tale as old as time, you know? So yeah. Like all the Ann Nesenti stuff from the 80s was incredibly like nuanced, and you never knew what was going to happen from one page to the next. And she tackled a lot of issues. So yeah, I loved Power Pack back in the day. Again, I'm an 80s kid, but yeah, the other day I was reading some Power Pack. I read it to my son sometimes, and I'm telling you that there's more literature and more literary weight in like one issue of Power Pack than an entire trade paperback that you could buy in the store today. Like, and that was meant for 7 to 12-year-olds, you know? So it's just weird how the writing has really thinned out. You know, you remember how small the writing used to be too? You go and read X Factor or X-Men from '84, and it's like the lettering is so tiny. You know, Chris Claremont had a lot to say, you know? And today I feel like the lettering is really big, and they still fill the page with word balloons. It's like, it's not, you know, how's that helping? So I feel like there's a kind of a tone, you know, that maybe needs to be rediscovered, where you can have a lot to say, but you're not assuming that the reader is, you know, a fool who needs to be enlightened by you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you lose the reader immediately.
Yeah. Teach me, master.
Yeah, or just like, you know, sit down and let me tell you what is this. And it's like, well, nobody wants to be spoken to that way. We want to discover these things along with the characters. You know, we want the characters to make mistakes and learn, and then we make mistakes and we learn, you know. So that's the whole idea, is that you got to learn with the characters. You don't want the author's voice spilling in, you know. It's like, reminds me of The Last Jedi, you know. The Last Jedi, I think, suffered a lot from that, where the director, writer, editor, his voice came through a lot. And it's like, we're not here to hear from you. You're supposed to breathe life into characters. You know, we want to know what the characters think, not what you think. You know, breathe life into characters and let us learn from them. You know, one of the people are hard on The Last Jedi, and I am also one of those people. I thought it was a very flawed film. But there's one line in that I've never heard anyone else tease apart that I really, really don't like. And it bothered me the night I saw it. It's after they go to the casino planet and they wreck everything. The author has Finn say, because I say the author has, because Finn doesn't feel like a character. He feels like the author is speaking. The author has Finn say, I guess it was worth it just to make them hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me? When I heard that, I was just like, I guess it was worth it just to make them hurt? Like, in what philosophy is that rooted?
Right.
Remind me what philosophy says, I guess it was worth it just to make them hurt.
Yeah. Well, it's
That's just
hypocritical because Hollywood produced that movie, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. All the rich executives, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They really got hurt. Yeah, I guess you really made them hurt. But I just couldn't believe that. It's like we were kids. We're playing with our action figures. We're children. We're like in a trance. We're playing. We recite the lines that the characters say while we're in that trance. So we're in a trance and we're saying do or do not. There is no try. We're saying stretch out with your feelings. We're repeating these things. They're like guiding principles. Would you really take a child and have them say, I guess it was worth it to make them hurt? I'm sorry.
I don't want my kids repeating that.
I mean, think about it. You have a responsibility. You're putting words into the pretend of children. Like, oh my gosh, that blew my mind when I heard that. Guess it was worth it to make them hurt. Ugh. Like, what kind of Jedi, what kind of any kind of Star Wars character would say that, you know? And again, it's not Finn's fault. John Boyega is a great actor, you know, but whoa.
Yeah,
jeez, that was just...
Yeah, he was doing a job, and he was doing a job by another person who was doing their job, and they did their job poorly, which reflected on his job, which it shouldn't have. And unfortunately, it does that, you know. But he's a fantastic actor.
Yeah, he is, and he's funny. Oh my God, he's so funny. He's funny in real life. He's sharp in real life. And there's a behind the scenes. They do these featurettes. There's a featurette for The Last Jedi that came out before the movie, and Ryan is on there like doing a Wookiee impersonation, and then the camera cuts to John, and he's like, this guy thinks he can do a Wookiee. Oh, new director. And I was like, truth in jest. You know, you could see from his facial expression that he was not totally kidding, you know, that he was kind of like, new director. Like, this isn't funny. He thinks he's funny doing this Wookiee thing, but like, we're here and we're just not thinking it's funny. So
we're not laughing.
We're not laughing, but so I think there was definitely some tension on the set there, but everyone has to make nice. Everyone has to make nice. But I mean, that was an inspiration for a lot of people. The Last Jedi was an inspiration for a lot because it was so bad. It was like, if that's the best that Hollywood could do, I could write it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I felt. I got really inspired by that.
You know, there used to be a day when I would think about doing writing or art for some of these other companies, some of these, you know, these bigger companies like and IPs like the X-Men or Swamp Thing or Batman and stuff like that. And I just think, you know, there's and I'll mess that up. You know, I can never do that. I'm afraid I'd mess it up, you know. But now at this point, you know, when I look at those things, I'm like, geez, give me a shot at this. You know, I couldn't do any worse than what they're doing, you know.
All right, I'm going to bring, if we can, we're going to bring Zaid Studios into the room to finish up the last 5 minutes of our show. Okay? And he's going to chat with us a little bit because I told him I would, and then it took us this long to find each other on Twitter. So Zaid Studios, if you can, come on in and tell us a little bit about your project before we sign off on this episode of There Will Be Ink. And I'll take a minute, show my progress. Oh, look what you've been doing there. Luke's been very busy. All right, yeah, he's working fast. So this is how far I've gotten on mine. I've got the background in there, got the monster. I still, of course, I'm going to have to do a lot of hatching to make those white characters stand out from the background, but it's been pretty good. And I think I got the lumpy, gelatinous texture of the Shoggoth pretty good. So again, I'm not a high-level artist, but I enjoy what I do. and I enjoy, getting creative with other people and building off what they've done. So this is my very oblique tribute to Sienkiewicz. I'm sure it wouldn't be obvious to anyone but me. All right, Zade Studios, I've sent you the link if you want to drop in and just appear with us on camera for a second and tell us about what you're up to, I know you're a video game company. Oh, okay. So, here he comes. Here he comes. All right, you're about to be on camera with us. There he is, Jeremy from Zade Studios. All right, how are you doing? He's flustered. He's been waiting. The Smurf kept him waiting so long. Oh, he's plugging in his audio, maybe? Yeah, it was worth it just to make them hurt. That really bothered me. And you know what else bothered me, since we're going to talk Disney Star Wars for a minute? Did you watch the season 1 of Westworld?
No,
on HBO? Season 1 of Westworld on HBO was really good. Really, really good. I couldn't even begin season 2. The quality fell off like a rock. But season 1 was really good. And the actress, Thandie Newton, she just ate up that show. She was magnetic anytime she was on camera. And then they put her in the Solo movie, right? And they killed her off in the first 10 minutes. I was like, you have one of the best actresses. She just blew away Westworld. Everybody wants to see her. You could have put her into a role in the Star Wars universe after that Westworld performance, and everyone would have been hanging. Am I right? Wasn't she amazing?
Yes.
And what they had her do in the Solo movies, hang on Woody Harrelson, and then hang on to a phone pole and get blasted. And that was her whole arc.
Yeah.
I guess she blew herself up to stop a train.
Yeah. I like the Solo movie.
Yeah, me too. No, it wasn't a terrible movie, but what a waste of talent that was.
Right. And man, you're all subject matter tonight. I just wish I could have dropped in a little bit earlier. I mean, going back to the to the Gnostic, scriptures, or even just the original scripture in Genesis 6. Man, I wish I could have jumped in on all
that. We'll do it again. We'll do it again.
Yeah. To the Star Wars stuff. And by the way, I love that Ninja Turtles thing, Art JBC. Oh my God. Got my Leo, got my arcade system. But
he's deep.
Yeah, I'm real deep turtle head. Man, the way that Disney's just starting to kind of dumb down, streamline storytelling, this is coming from the best storytellers we've had in 60, 70 years because they capitalized on it. Yeah. Not saying that any other storytellers can't, tell great stories. I'm trying to do one. I'm seeing some amazing stuff coming from these comic artists. As long as we have something to keep beating, to aim at beating, then great. Give us the aim. Give us the stuff to get better at. Man, they laid us up a lob ball to hit with that baseball bat with those Star Wars movies last.
Yeah, exactly.
They really did.
Yeah, that was unbelievable how they fumbled that.
I can't believe they did. They did. But Game of Thrones ended super horribly, and they were passing the project because all it is money coming in from the attention. If you have an antic that you could do that's safe and not going to destroy your reputation, that's kind of how you do this nowadays. I can't figure out how to do that in a way that my personality will feel okay with it. They don't care. So it's really strange. I was putting in the chat, Gulliver's Travels, Tolkien, stuff like that. They had a high reading level.
Yep.
But you don't find people willing enough to read it. You try to write in that style, they'll be like, this is too hard
for kids. Too hard for kids.
I can't understand.
Too hard for kids.
Well, I certainly hope that's not the case, because that's definitely the angle that I take with this story. There's a lot of allegory to it, but it's also we got layers of nuance, and if you peel back a little bit, you'll see the symbolism.
That's the fun of reading, though. That's the fun of reading.
Yeah. Well, like Tolkien and Lewis, A lot of people don't. A lot of people do know this. I'm a full-time pastor. That's what I do. That's my that's my thing. My book's not a Christian book, but there is layers of symbolism of my faith, and things like that make their way in there. So just like Lord of the Rings or Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, you're going to see some of those things in there. Not to say that I'm at that caliber of writing yet, but
sure you are. You just haven't let that whale speak yet. And what whale? The one in your imagination is just trying to come out. That's a quote from Finding Neverland. So,
Well, I kind of feel like Hybrids is a whale. I mean, I started this out. It's 3 planned arcs. So the first one's done. We are part one of 4 into the second one, and then we have a third arc that will be 4 to 5 issues that will hopefully come to fruition next year, because this won't be completed by the end of this year. We'll wind up having launched all 4 issues and then launch the trade.
Nice. That's a great vision. And so, Jeremy, we only have you for a little bit, but definitely come and be on next week,
Oh, definitely. Sure. I kind of just accidentally stumbled into this tonight.
Well, I'm so glad. But tell us, quickly run down your project, because you're also a game developer.
Yeah, and artist as well. I'm a self-taught animator, almost self-taught artist. I've been drawing since I held a crown. But Zaid Studios is an independent development company that me and my brother are doing. It's already started. So our flagship title is Beckon. It's a JRPG. I'm doing all the art, the writing, the concept,
I remember
all of that, the animation, the game the game design itself has an RPG. It's a mix of. It's still hardcore turn-based, guys. Don't knock it out because I say the cursed real time. But if you ever played games, like Chrono Cross or Legend of Legaia, Legend of Dragoon, Lost Odyssey, you will feel very comfortable with the experimentations we're doing with Beckon. The prototype or very early alpha is on Steam right now. If you have PC, you can play it. Just search Beckon, and it's right there. Let us know what you think. Actually, my screen share is some concept art that I'm doing
hold on.
right now.
There you go. Oh, cool! Look at this. Look at this.
This is kind of what I've been working on while we've been talking.
Well, this is great. Well, then consider yourself an official guest on our show, because you've been drawing while we talk. So there you go.
Yeah. I love it. But guys, going at like I said, the topics tonight. I wish I could have gotten a little bit earlier, because I've got that urge, that drive to basically say, you know what, corporate entertainment, screw you, we're coming for you. Like that's about the best thing I can say is, like, we're coming for you. Like, there are good artists, good writers, good stuff that the gatekeepers of this whole entertainment industry, you can't hold us back because of the internet now. You could try, you could try, and maybe you guys don't want me pulling this attention towards us, but we're good creators, good stories, good stuff. We just got to get ourselves out there. And that's what all this is. That's what Twitter is. That's what all of us are trying to do. I mean, I've gotten a great response from Instagram personally. I got a great response from Reddit. That's the other thing. Like, that was out of nowhere, is Reddit. Like, if you're willing enough to just sit there and deal with Reddit, then it's worth getting on there.
That's interesting. I've never really taken any time to do that.
Oh, it is a headache. I'll tell you that.
Okay. Tell me, give it to me straight, Doc. Don't sugarcoat it.
It's a headache. But we just launched Beckon on Indiegogo on last Friday during our live stream. We've already hit 6,751, I think is what we're at right now.
Wow. All right.
Our goal is 68. It's a video game. It's an RPG. It's got 20-hour plus gameplay. I'm the only artist. I'm doing this full time. I don't get paid to do it. I'm straight dreaming this. My older brother programs. He's got a day job. He's doing this pro bono. It's his first video game.
Yeah.
So yeah, check us out. I've worked in video games for like 8 years, and an entire life of wanting to make games and playing with RPG Maker and everything. So, and I've worked really close with independent game developers and programmers. So I've got a good head start, but
awesome.
My ambitions are too big. That's the problem.
So, there's a whale, right? You gotta listen to the whale.
That whale. Yes, that's that whale. Yes.
All right. Well, this has been a good show. I think I should wrap it up. We're almost 10 minutes over. So, Jeremy, feel free to jump in anytime with us. I'm going to be trying to hold this time slot. 11:30 to 1 on Tuesdays, all throughout the campaign, because I feel like as people hear about Tales of Zero, as we drop, a huge thing with indie comics, this is my opinion, Luke, is that people can talk to the creators. You don't wait for a Comic-Con. You don't wait for a thing. You're like, oh, Tales of Zero looks interesting. Oh, he's going to be on at 11:30. I'm going to ask him, what's up with that? Can I do this? What is this? People can talk to you. And I feel like you got to make yourself available. And so I think by holding on this time slot, being open to all kinds of creators, I'll bring CG, I'll bring non-CG, I'll bring everybody on. The ground rules are, you got to love what you're doing. You got to have a passion for what you're doing. You got to love to create and be cool and just treat each other cool. And we're beyond like the turf wars. It's just about how cool is your project and how much can you make me want it? And if you have that fire, we're all on the same team. We're all just trying to make a dream come true. That's it. And if you're spending your time tearing down somebody else, that's a different dream. That's not where I'm at. Well, you know what I mean?
Well, going back, I think you and Luke were talking about that whole line in Star Wars. Do you really want your kid to repeat that?
Exactly.
And that's
Precisely.
That's what stories are. Stories aren't just for, entertainment. They're literally how we learn how to interact in this world.
Yep.
In this density, that's
Absolutely.
How we do it.
That's very true. And yeah, exactly. If your guiding principle is I'm going to make somebody hurt, like, what are you doing this for, man? And nobody's like, all the people that I connect with are not like that. We're just like, we're trying to make a dream come true. That's literally what we're trying to do.
The only thing I'm spiteful for is spitefully trying to make Beckon an actual thing. Just like I'm sure any of you guys look at the struggles of doing this. Oh, and you're saying, I'm going to do it to spite people saying no.
Oh, yeah. And I get fired up when I see something like The Last Jedi where it's like, I that gets me going because I'm like, well, I know I can do better than that. I know I can write a story better than that. I know I can write a script. I can do a character that's more believable than that,
So again, I'm not saying spite's better than that message that was that we were talking about. It's not. It could just be used in the right way. Is the best way I could say.
Yeah, something's got to kick you in the pants. But I put on my, because I followed indie comics and I followed a lot of the turf wars without taking sides for a while. And the people I like, I still like them. You know what I mean? It's like you get a feeling from a person, like where their vision is and where their heart is in that vision. And then you check back with them a year later, they're still that guy. They're still that person with that vision, and if you just follow the hashtag wars, you're just chasing after the wrong stuff. You can tell by the creator's mindset, by the project, where their heart is, and just go by that alone. And you'll rarely be wrong, because a person who's just trying to cause fights creates nothing, and a person who's doing they create nothing. And so I just feel that way really strongly. And I feel like this show could be a good place where, nobody knows who I am. It's not about me. I'm like a nobody, but people who feel like, oh, I couldn't do that, because I'm not CG enough, or I'm too CG. It's like none of that matters right now. We are beyond that. We have cleared that hurdle now. It's just about build your dream. That's all it is. It's just build your dream.
Make something. Too many people are trying to tear stuff down. So just
make something. That's my motto is build 21. It's like this is the year to build. Like I have a person I'm working on. I'm coloring a project for a person who's a Twitter friend of mine, and he doesn't like CG at all, but I don't care. I like him and I like his work, and he doesn't have to like who I like. Like we're adults, man. We can like different things. Yeah, we're adults. What's the deal, man? We can like different things. Who cares? Like we can collaborate. It's like the world can be so much more fun.
Collaboration has been the biggest thing for me as an artist. Joe Catapano doing Star Circuit
we've been head to head. I decided to really start pushing for my game. He started pushing for Star Circuit.
Oh, great.
That camaraderie.
Yeah.
That because we're best friends. We went to high school together.
Awesome.
And we've been kind of, behind each other in this world, but
that's
that
fantastic.
collaboration, this type stuff, like I'm in video games. I'm working more and talking more with comic guys than even with video games. Why? You guys are much more easier to talk to.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But
it's not just.
I don't think we're as competitive. I think there are some groups that are very competitive. Like, and I think there are some people in comics that are that way. They feel like we're fighting over the same dollars, the same wallets. But But honestly, what I've noticed, I recently in the last year went over to the CG thing, and I still work with non-CG people. I don't.
Of course. What does it even mean? Just have a dream and believe in it, man. That's all.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I do like the community and the fact that I feel like a lot of the CG folks, they're not competitive with each other. It's they're in competitive in the sense they're trying to push each other higher. Yeah. A rising tide lifts all ships.
Exactly.
And but there's also people that are on both sides of that. But I see that a lot with some indie folks that they just want to encourage each other to get better. And there's really not that competitiveness there. But now, I was in a band, and we played a lot, and bands are always competitive.
Oh yeah.
To a sense, like the bands will play out with each other, but if you get two bands that sound similar and there's two guitarists, I was a lead vocalist and a lead guitarist at both points in my music career, and man, I'll tell you, lead guitarist, it's like that is diva right there. You get up and you play a lick. Every time I get up to play, there's other bands there. All of the lead guitarists are standing in front of me. They're standing right there and they're watching. Yeah, they're watching. Yeah. And so it's like, I come to that lick and you're like, oh gosh, but you could see when it clicks in their eyes and they're like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm no longer judging you. I'm enjoying what you're doing. And it's like, okay, now we can have some fun.
And totally. Really, it's tickling them on their own thing. Like if a certain scale that they can't do or a riff they can't do or something like that.
Well, and there's two responses to that. There's like, oh, that's awesome, or God, I hate that guy. Sometimes in the weird, the rare event they collide. Wow, that's awesome, but I hate that guy. Jeez.
Yeah, I hate that guy.
Wish I could do that.
The hate the guy thing, dude. Then you earned that hate. Like I earned my first downvote. Don't go doing this, guys. I just earned my first downvote on my trailer video, and that came from Reddit. Like I said, Reddit's a rough place, but if you can do it right, it serves you well. But people are going to do that. People are going to push back to things that are powerful because I guess they have a competition against you. I'm just trying to create a good thing, and that's what I see with the comic book thing is. We're just trying to tell our stories and have a good time.
I know.
Like, that's it.
That's it. That's all there is.
The more games I play, the better games I make.
Yeah.
The more comic books you read, the better comic books you make. How come the game industry is so much more competitive? There's an easy answer. It's bigger than Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but with comic books, it's so much more creator-driven. And Catapano Art could tell you straight up, that's basically all I do. I barely draw superheroes. I think the last two I did was Superman and Batman about 4 or 5 years ago during a MegaCon, like a Comic-Con out in Orlando out here. So that's the last time I did anything of anybody else's stuff. I'm going to do Joe's Star Circuit main character here soon, so within the month. So I love creator-driven projects. I mean, Ninja Turtles. Come on, I was raised on that. Don't get me on that. But the better stories you're telling, having Disney in your eyesight as far as like get better than this, I think that's low hanging fruit. I think there's a lot better for you to kind of aspire to try to nitpick how they're discussing things, how they're telling stories, and you guys know this. That's why we were talking about it. But guys, just that Again, I wish I came in earlier because that Genesis 6 Nephilim stuff was my jam, dude.
All right, well,
I was gonna jump in.
we'll have a whole show dedicated to that because I know a little bit about that, and I like all of that. I like all the way those different worlds combine, both mythology, alternate history, and then it's a wonderful confluence of storytelling. So yeah, we can get into that on another show. All right, well, let's wrap this up, everybody. I want to thank everybody on the panel. I'm going to show you my last. Let's hit up everybody's art one last time. So this is what I've got so far. I think you're going to see it. So here's my slime monster, my Shuggoth. Now you know what a Shuggoth is. And again, like it's going to take me a long time to render down to the white figures have contrast. But you know what I might just do, Luke? I might just swipe this thing into digital, put on a brush with low opacity, and just get her done. You know, do some digital ink wash and that way. So I think that's my next phase on this. Going to be the digital ink wash, and I'll call this done for the inks tonight. All right, JB, let's take a look at what your turtle piece is looking like. Oh my God!
Fantastic.
That's insanely awesome.
Yeah, it's so true. You captured the vibe of the first one, but they're a lot more muscular.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I mean. It's like you take your inspiration and then take it to a new place.
Hey, JB, have you ever worked on Bristol board?
No. What's the
Or it's Bristol paper. It's got a tooth to it, depending on what you got. But man, if you tear that out and basically cut off the sides on there, you should put that up online for sale. I know a few guys that would probably be down for that.
Yeah, probably.
Like I've got one from Joe.
Yeah, man.
Because but dude, that's a sick style, dude.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And Luke, he's already done like four different things. He did the thwack, he did the girl. He's just been busy over there.
You got to.
Any last piece you want to? Yeah. Your shared screen, of course. Here we go.
Yeah. You can show that off there. What I finished out with.
All right.
That walk. Dude, you took that a lot further what we've been talking.
Yeah. Just screwing around. This is something I would do, like what I would do for a warm up before I get started inking for the day. But
good line of action.
Yeah.
Good line of action.
So, all right, yeah.
You need that onomatopoeia.
Right, this has been fun, everybody. Let's do this again. I had a Saturday episode this past weekend, and it was actually really good. It's possible I may do a Saturday episode this week as well, so watch me on Twitter, but we'll definitely be back next Tuesday. And thank you guys so much for taking the time. Let's just promote creativity, conversation, and build your dream in 2021. That's the message, all right? All right. Amen. Good night, you guys. We're going to shut down the broadcast.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Peace.